Hey y'all, Michelle Raza here with Finding Yourself, and today we're going to be talking about Robert Heinlein's Stranger in a Strange Land, continuing our Science Fiction Saturday series. Please do like and subscribe. It really does help us little YouTubers here. Oops, sorry about that. It does help our channels as we grow. I don't get compensated for any of this right now. Right now it's just a hobby. But hopefully in the future, I don't know what'll come from it. All I know is that I enjoy doing it, and you guys seem to enjoy watching and listening, so I'll keep doing it. But yeah, and then we also have a few other more serious channels. One of them is Coping with Emotionally Immature Parents, and those are the works of Lindsay Gibson. The cool part there is that Lindsay actually wrote to me, so that's exciting. And then the other one is for romantic relationships. So those are the works of Dr. John Gottman. So yeah, this is just fun. This is our little weekend series. That's just a lot of fun. And this book was written in 1961 by Robert Heinlein and shaped a lot of thought in the United States, actually, which is part of why it's so fascinating to me. Some of the ideas are way out there, like stuff that's just not feasible. Some of it is just pure fiction, but it's good. It's good stuff. So if you're with me, if you've been watching the parts before this video and you're enjoying it, I hope you continue to enjoy it. And please share with your friends. Tell them to subscribe. And yeah, I'll get started. Sorry, I like to blab a little bit. Sorry. Okay, so we were in chapter 4. I thought I would be able to finish chapter 4, but I was 15 minutes into the video and I was just like, okay, I need to stop. I try to do about 10 minutes at a time. So I'm going to go back just a little bit. Jill nodded. I figured that out, and that's why I discounted his odd remarks. I'm not dumb. This is where Ben had said, use your head, Jill. We don't know much about Mars, but we do know that Mars is very unlike Earth, and that Martians, whatever they are, certainly are not human. Suppose you were suddenly popped into a tribe so far back in the jungle that they had never laid eyes on a white woman. Would you know all the sophisticated small talk that comes from a lifetime in a culture? Or would your conversation sound odd? That's a very mild analogy. The truth in this case is at least 40 million miles stranger. Jill nodded. I figured that out, and that's why I discounted his odd remarks. I'm not dumb. No, you're real bright for a female. Would you like this martini poured in your thinning hair? I apologize. Women are lots smarter than men. That is proved by our whole cultural setup. Gimme, I'll fill it. She accepted the peace offerings and went on. Ben, that order about not letting him see women, it's silly. He's no sex fiend. I doubt they don't want him. I doubt they don't want to hand him too many shocks at once. He wasn't shocked. He was just interested. It wasn't like having a man look at me at all. If you had humored him on that request for a private viewing, you might have had your hands full. He probably has all of the instincts and no inhibitions. Huh? I don't think so. I suppose they've told him about male and female. He just wanted to see how men are different. Vive la différence, Caxton answered enthusiastically. Don't be more vulgar than you have to be. Me? I wasn't being vulgar. I was being reverent. I was giving thanks to all the gods that I was born human and not Martian. Be serious. I was never more serious. Then be quiet. He wouldn't have given me any trouble. He would probably have thanked me gravely. You didn't see his face. I did. What about his face? Jill looked puzzled. I don't know how to express it. Yes, I do. Ben, have you ever seen an angel? You, cherub, otherwise not. Well, neither have I. But this is what his face looked like. He had old, wise eyes and a completely placid face, a face of unearthly innocence. She shivered. Unearthly is surely the right word, Ben answered slowly. I'd like to see him. I wish you had, Ben. Why are they making such a thing out of keeping him shut up? He wouldn't hurt a fly, I'm sure of it. Caxton fitted his fingertips together. Well, in the first place, they want to protect him. He grew up in Mars gravity. He's probably weak as a cat. Yes, of course, you could see it just looking at him. But muscular weakness isn't dangerous. Myasthenia gravis is much worse, and we manage all right with such cases. They would want to keep him from catching things, too. He's like those experimental animals at Notre Dame. He's never been exposed. Sure, no antibodies. But from what I hear around the mess hall, Dr. Nelson, the surgeon and the champion, Dr. Nelson took care of that on the trip back. Repeated mutual transfusion until he had replaced about half of his blood tissue. Really? Can I use that, Jill? That's news. All right, just don't quote me. They gave him shots for everything but housemaid's knee, too. But Ben, even if they want to protect him from infection, that doesn't take armed guards outside his door. Jill, I've picked up a few tidbits you may not know. I haven't been able to use them because I've got to protect my sources, just as with you. But I'll tell you, you've earned it. Just don't talk. Oh, I won't. It's a long story. Want a refill? No, let's start the steak. Where's the button? Right here. Well, push it. Me? You offered to cook dinner. Where's that Girl Scout spirit you were boasting about? Ben Caxton, I will lie right here in the grass and starve before I will get up to push a button that is 6 inches from your right forefinger. As you wish. He pressed the button to tell the stove to carry out its preset orders. But don't forget who cooked dinner. Now about Valentine Michael Smith. In the first place, there is grave doubt as to his right to the name Smith. Repeat, please. Honey, your pal appears to be the first interplanetary bastard of record. Love child. The hell you say? Please be more ladylike in your speech. Do you remember anything about the crew of the Envoy? Never mind. I'll hit the high points. 8 people, 4 married couples. 2 couples were Captain and Mrs. Brandt, Dr. and Mrs. Smith. Your friend with the face of an angel appears to be the son of Mrs. Smith by Captain Brandt. How do they know? And anyhow, who cares? Jill sat up and said indignantly, It's a pretty sniveling thing to dig up a scandal after all this time. They're all dead. Let 'em alone, I say. As to how they know, you can figure that out. Blood typing, Rh factor, eye and hair color, all those genetic things. You probably know more about them than I do. Anyhow, it's a mathematical certainty that Mary Lane Lyle Smith was his mother and Captain Michael Brandt was his father. All the factors are matters of record for the entire crew of the Envoy. There probably were never 8 people more thoroughly measured and typed. Also, it gives Valentine Michael Smith a wonderfully fine heredity. His father had an IQ of 163, his mother 170, and both were tops in their fields. As to who cares, Ben went on, a lot of people care very much, and a lot more will care once this picture shapes up. Ever heard of the Lyle drive? Of course, that's what the Champion used. And every other spaceship these days. Who invented it? I don't. Wait a minute, you mean she? Hand the little lady a cigar. Dr. Mary Jane Lyle Smith. She knew she had something important, even though the development work remained to be done on it. So before she left on the expedition, she applied for a dozen odd basic patents and placed it all in a corporate trust. Not a non-profit organization, mind you, then assigned control and interim income to the Science Foundation. So eventually, the government got control of it. But your friend with the face of an angel owns it. No possible doubt. It's worth millions, maybe hundreds of millions. I couldn't guess. They brought in dinner. Caxton used ceiling tables to protect his lawn. He lowered one down in front of his chair and another to Japanese height so Jill could sit on the grass. Tender, he asked. Hungerful, she answered with her mouth full. Thanks. Remember, I cooked it. Ben, she said after swallowing, how about Smith being being illegitimate? Can he inherit? He's not illegitimate. Dr. Mary Jane was at Berkeley, and California laws deny the concept of bastardy. Same for Captain Brandt, as New Zealand also has civilized laws on the subject. While under the laws of the home state of Dr. Ward Smith, Mary Jane's husband. A child born in wedlock is legitimate, come hell or high water. We have here, Jill, a man who is the Simon pure legitimate child of 3 different parents. Huh? Now wait a minute, Ben. He can't be it both ways. One or the other, but not both. I'm not a lawyer, but you sure ain't. Such legal fictions bother a lawyer not at all. Smith is legitimate different ways in different jurisdictions, all kosher and all breaking his way, even though he is probably a bastard in his physical ancestry. So he inherits. Besides that, while his mother was wealthy, both his fathers were at least well-to-do. Brant was a bachelor until just before the expedition. He had plowed most of his scandalous salary as a pilot on the moon run back to Lunar Enterprises Limited. You know how that stuff is boomed. They just declared another 3-way stock dividend. Brand had one vice, gambling, but the bloke won regularly and invested that too. Ward Smith had family money. He was a medical man and scientist by choice. Smith is heir to both of them. Whew! That ain't half, honey. Smith is heir to the entire crew. Huh? All 8 signed a gentleman adventurer's contract, making them all mutually heirs to each other, all of them and their issue. They did it with great care, using as models similar contracts in the 16th and 17th centuries that had stood up against every effort to break them. Now these were all high-powered people. Among them, they had quite a lot, happened to include considerable Lunar Enterprises stock, too, besides what Brant held. Smith might turn out to own a controlling interest or at least a key block in a proxy fight. Jill thought about the childlike creature who had made such a touching ceremony out of just a drink of water and felt sorry for him. But Caxton went on. I wish I could sneak a look into the envoy's log. I know they recovered it, but I doubt if they'll ever release it. Why not, Ben? Excuse me. Because it's a nasty story. I got just enough to be sure before my informant sobered up and clammed up. Dr. Ward Smith delivered his wife of child by cesarean section, and she died on the table. He seems to have worn his horns complacently until then. But what he did next shows that he knew the score. With the same scalpel, he cut Captain Brandt's throat, then cut his own. Sorry, hun. Jill shivered. I'm a nurse. I'm immune to such things. You're a liar, and I love you for it. I was on police beat for 3 years, Jill. I never got hardened to it. What happened to the others? I wish I knew. If we don't break the bureaucrats and high brass loose from that log, we'll never know. And I am enough of a starry-eyed newsboy to think we should know. Secrecy begets tyranny. Ben, he might be better off if they gypped him out of his inheritance. He's very, unworldly. The exact word, I'm sure. Nor does he need all that money. The man from Mars will never miss a meal. Any of the governments and any of 1,000-odd universities and scientific institutions would be delighted to have him as a permanent privileged guest. He'd better sign it over and forget it. It's not that easy, Jill. You know about the famous case of General Atomics versus Larkin et al.? Not really. You mean the Larkin decision. I had to study it in school, same as everybody. But what's it got to do with Smith? Think back. The Russians sent the first rocket to the moon. It crashed. The United States and Canada combined to send another one. Gets back, but leaves nobody on the moon. So when the United States and the Commonwealth are getting set to send a colonizing one jointly under the nominal sponsorship of the Federation, and Russia is mounting the same deal of their own, General Atomics steals a march by sending one of their own from an island leased from Ecuador. And their men are still there, sitting pretty and looking smug when the Federation vessel shows up, followed by a Russian one. You know what happened. General Atomics, a Swiss corporation, American-controlled, claimed the moon. The Federation couldn't just brush them off. That would have been too raw. And anyhow, the Russians wouldn't have held still. So the High Court ruled that a corporate person, a mere legal fiction, could not own a planet. Therefore, the real owners were the flesh and blood men who had maintained the occupation, Larkin and Associates. So they recognized them as a sovereign nation and took them into the Federation, with some melon slicing for those on the inside and fat concessions to General Atomics and its daughter corporation, Lunar Enterprises. This did not entirely suit anybody, and the High Federation High Court was not all-powerful in those days, but it was a compromise everybody could swallow. It resulted in some tight rules for colonizing planets, all based on the Larkin decision and intended to avoid bloodshed. Worked, too. It's a matter of history that World War III did not result from a conflict over space travel and such. So the Larkin decision is solidly a part of our interplanetary law and applies to Smith. Jill shook her head. I don't see the connection. Martinis? Think, Jill. By our laws, Smith is a sovereign nation in himself and the sole owner of the planet Mars. Bum, bum, bum. So now we're on chapter 5. We will continue that next Saturday. Thanks for hanging out with me. I really like spending time with you guys. I love seeing your comments. Please like and subscribe. Tell your friends to do the same. And if you want some more serious content, please do check out our other playlists. Take care. Have a great day. Bye.